joined today by professional basketball player Danny Evans. He discovered the sport at an after-school club in Year 4 where his coach spotted his natural ability. And after that, Danny was hooked. This really has been the story of a childhood dream. Growing up in North Leeds, travelling stateside, being part of the national team, and now at the Commonwealth Games. Danny really seems to be living the dream. So I read that your mum has been a huge part of your story. She, obviously, growing up, she was a single parent, and she, well, as far as I'm aware, was a really big influence on your life. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, so my mum was a huge influence on me growing up. You know, it was just me and her from the early years, and I was quite a hyperactive kid. So she would, I would get in trouble at school and stuff, not like being a bad kid, but just disruptive stuff. So she'd get called in and things, and you know, she tried to put me into different sports, just to try and like curb that hyperactiveness that I had. And yeah, I stumbled across basketball. So she was instrumental in that, and then all the way throughout my life, and to this day, you know, she's a huge kind of influence for me and someone that I lean on a lot.
And was she there? How did she support you then? Was she always at every game? Like,
yeah, every game. Even now, like, she doesn't really know the rules that much.
Really?
You know how you get in sport, you get some pushy parents and things. Like, she was never that. She was just kind of, after good game, bad game, she would just tell me, all right, life goes on, you know.
Yeah.
But just to always push me to try my best with things. I think that was kind of what helped me out a lot. You know, I didn't have someone that was necessarily pushing me. It was just kind of giving me the tools to kind of go for something myself, and like, you know, I've said before, like, just encouraging me to dream really big and to set my sights on things. You know, there's a lot of people out there that are of the older generation that kind of don't want you to, for example, go to America to play. You know, that was a goal of mine. I told her that when I was like 11 or 10 years old, and she was just like, she wasn't scared about it. It was just like, all right, well, go and do what you need to do to make that happen. And yeah, it's really, really special for me.
That's amazing having someone like that in your life, though, isn't it, as well? So just kind of, it sounds like, listening to that, just like the mindset that she had of, you know, that's okay, get on with it. You know, some people, I suppose, like with failures as well, really focus on the failures, and then, like, it sounds like she had a really incredible, has a really incredible mindset. Where do you think she gets that from?
To be honest, I think maybe her work. She's a nurse, and she has worked in oncology, so with cancer patients for a large part of her career. And so I think that she just sees how, like, fleeting life can be. Yeah. So she always kind of encouraged me that, like, life's too short to kind of like dwell on things too much, or anything like that, really. So just encouraged me with that, and yeah, I think that's probably where she gets it from, to be honest.
That's amazing. It's kind of like life's so precious, and she recognises that, and like having that person behind you to push you and do these incredible things, and I think that really helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, like, definitely.
So definitely. Obviously you've again, I've read that you've had these inspirations and these sort of sporting heroes of NBA legend LeBron James, David Beckham, Usain Bolt. What do you think it was about these people's stories that, you know, you either resonated with, or what did you take from their stories?
I mean, from that list there, like, you can see that it's quite varied, different sports and things, and just growing up, and even today, I just find inspiration from little things. I wouldn't say it's just one thing specifically that's inspired me along the way. I remember being a kid, and like, I went through a phase of, like, different phases, and so when I was about 8 years old, I watched the Olympics, and I was just mesmerized by the way they lined up on the starting blocks and things like that, and I just like, wow, I really, like, that's so cool. Like, I just in awe of them. And then people like David Beckham, and like you mentioned, you know, LeBron James with the basketball, and I just take little bits from the way that they act, or the way that they go about things, and try to like just be inspired by that myself. And I think for me, it goes deeper than just the sport side of things. It's the way they are, the way they interact with people. You know, I'd kind of have like a thing where I'd like study them almost, like study how they are in interviews, study how they like are with their family and things like that. And I'd be like, wow, I'd just be in awe of it. And I think that kind of shaped, not just focusing on just the basketball, just the whole element of like them as people, shaped a little bit of who I am today.
Do you think that you were able to see yourself in their shoes when you were watching these people on TV? Do you feel like you use almost like a visualization somehow, or
yeah, maybe that might be something to do with it. You know, whenever I'd watch them, and I have this today as well, like I'd never remember feeling a sense of like, I could never do that, or that's out of my reach. And maybe that goes back to, you know, my mum and what she instilled, the confidence she instilled in me to kind of believe in things. But whenever I saw these things, I knew that if I set my mind to it, that was possible for me.
Yeah.
And I think that when I stuck with basketball, that's just carried myself throughout to my career now.
That's what I see, like, as well, like a lot of people don't always have that, you know, that belief. They kind of maybe put a blocker in the way. And it's obvious that, you know, for yourself, belief has really helped you go to the next level. So, because I did see, I found an article about you on sort of the most influential people in Leeds, and you'd put about, you know, that you signed your dream contract, and that you had, you know, sort of posted this on your bedroom wall. Is that right? Did you write it or something?
On the back of my door, yeah.
Yeah? Did you?
Room, yeah.
Because people use sort of techniques like that, like visualization boards and things, and there's a lot of people who become quite successful in what they want to do, who actually use that as a genuine technique. I don't know if you know about that, but you actually just naturally did that.
Yeah, I actually had a conversation recently about that. So I have a sports psychologist as part of kind of my background team for what I do, and I mentioned to him that he like made some I guess analysis of how I was as a person.
Okay.
And I told him that I wrote on my bedroom door when I was 10 years old that I wanted to be a professional and and he was like, wow, like that's an actual technique. And I was like, wow, I didn't even know that, but at 10 years old something made me do that. And I think it definitely helped me. And it, like I said, you know, when I'd see things, I'd never felt like it was out of reach. If I wanted to and I put the time into it, you know, it was possible. No matter where I came from, the fact that I came from Leeds, and no one had done that before. No one had gone on to play professionally. There was no blueprint for what I wanted to do. But I knew that if I wanted it bad enough and I worked hard enough, then it would eventually happen. So, I definitely, that was a big moment for me when I signed my first professional contract.
What did that feel like? What was that like?
It was amazing. To be honest, it wasn't such of a ta-da moment, because I think that came for me when I first got a scholarship to America. You know, making that jump from Leeds to America was not a bigger moment for me, but it was more of a like, okay, all that belief that I had from when I was 10, 11 years old, all right, that's actually happened now. Like that's actually, and I remember like tears of joy and stuff, and when that happened. And
did you have a realization moment then? Did you actually just go, wow, hang on a minute, of these things?
That was it, honestly. When I got the call, it was a phone call, because my journey was, so I did my A-levels here in Leeds, at Allerton High School, sixth form, and then I was playing for the national team and stuff at that time. But going to America is obviously a huge jump, because you have to get a scholarship, and a scholarship is, you know, it's getting your education and your everything paid for. And my financial background with my family, that wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for having that scholarship. So, you know, I was speaking with coaches and stuff, but I wasn't sure if the scholarship was going to come. And then I got a phone call from it was a prep school I went to for 1 year before I went to university. And the phone call came, it was about March time, and he said, hey Danny, like he's from South Carolina, so he had a really like really droll accent, really laid back, and he was just like, yeah Danny, like you got a scholarship, like we want you to come in the fall, in September, and join us. And I was just like, I remember like just crying on the phone to him, and he was like, why are you crying? Like I was like, thank you, put the phone down. And I just like had this moment where I remember like laying back in my bed, and I was just like, oh my God, like that's actually happened. And then obviously telling family and friends and things. But I think that was that big moment for me. And then signing professionally, it was kind of like, once I was in America, I knew that if, you know, I did what I had to do and made the improvements that I needed to make, that would happen. And, you know, I'd been speaking to agents at that time, and I knew that at that level, you know that if you're having them conversations, that's going to come. So when it actually came, and that was a big moment too, don't get me wrong, but the big jump from Leeds to America was huge.
It sounded like almost like you were just about feeling a little bit unsure as well.
Yeah.
Because often that's another, not a technique, but something that generally happens within sort of success stories is it's almost you're about, not like going to give up, because I don't think that you were going to do that at all, but it's like you almost had to think, oh, could this happen? And then it's that breakthrough moment.
Definitely. Self-doubt.
Yeah.
Self-doubt is huge. And it's not like, people see, my achievements and things like that and things I've achieved, and I know a lot of young kids, and whenever I speak to young kids, I try to tell them this, like they see the all the highlights.
Yeah.
People
it's
rarely,
like social media.
Exactly, social media. It's like people rarely document the lowlights, but there's so many throughout that time of when I was 10, and I had this belief, and I guess it's the only way I can describe it is like the deepest belief in myself. No matter what conversations I have, no matter who tries to shun what I want to do.
Yeah.
I always had that belief in myself, but that doesn't mean that self-doubt doesn't come in and creep in at different times.
What do you do with that? What do you do with the self-doubt? Is there any sort of thing that you found that helps, or is it just going back to that belief?
I think it's just going back to that belief, that kind of innocent, childlike belief in myself, and that kind of rebellious mindset that like, all right, this is a tough thing to do, but I can do it. Like, why can't I do it? And falling back on that. But there are definitely times, and it's not like once I got that call and knew I was going to America, that went away. Like, I think as long as you set goals in life, or you have a dream of something, like I still have dreams that, I achieved one dream, but that doesn't mean that I don't have more dreams in my life.
You need to have so many dreams, otherwise you just come up to what are you going to come up to?
It's never ending, really. And that self-doubt, I still have self-doubt today. Like, there's days where you kind of doubt yourself. I've just recently come back from injury, and I'm still going through this now of like, okay, am I going to get back to the feeling like I'm at the level that I was before, or the level that I want to get to?
That's got to be a belief, though, hasn't it? It's got to come back to that moment where you think. It has to come back to
that inner, what drives you through those tough days when you're like, oh, I don't quite feel it today. Yeah.
What do you do? How do you manage that when you don't quite feel it? What is it that?
I try to be kind to myself, and kind of know that. Come back to the fact that it's a journey. That I try. I had some great advice. About a few years ago, and it was from someone that's now a really close family friend, but she said, be where your feet are, and that just really stuck with me. And I was like, wow, like it was like a light bulb moment almost, because when you're trying to achieve something and you set big dreams and big goals and stuff, it's hard to remember the moment that you're in right now, because you're constantly thinking of what's next, like what's the next thing that the next step that I'm trying to take to get to that end goal. But what's really important is coming back to like where you are right now, and being grateful for where you are right now, and being the best version of you that you can be in what you're doing at that present moment. And then eventually those present moments add up, and you'll get to where you want to be. But if you're constantly worrying about what's next or what's happened that you didn't quite do your best in, then you're going to just get lost in that.
Try to kind of move forward in that sort of moment. Exactly. You said a few things there. There's like obviously a quote, which was brilliant, that something so powerful as a quote can really help you. A lot of people, again, have like the odd quote that genuinely like connects with them and makes them feel like, I heard Joe Wicks talking about that. He was saying that, I think he'd spoke with Fern Cotton, and she'd said something along the lines of, everything comes in seasons, and so that even throughout everything in nature blooms at its right time, and almost that if you want to be like number one all the time, it's almost impossible, because that's not natural, it's not nature to do that.
Exactly.
And so he was sort of struggling with always wanting to be, well, I've done this and I've done that, and I want to be here and I want to be there, and that's kind of he was being kinder to himself because of it. Do you find that like you have that ability to do that to then, so with I suppose that quote helped? Yeah,
it did help, but it's peaks and troughs, once I've heard that quote, it's not like, okay, that's it, I can stay present, I know how to stay present now for the rest of my life. I remember there was a point where I felt like that, and I felt like I'd mastered it, I'd mastered life, but things happen in life.
Don't you think when you feel like that something comes around the corner?
Yeah, something's going to humble you at some point.
Actually,
yeah,
exactly. Okay, I'm not quite there yet.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought I was the Zen master, but
it's funny how life has a way of doing that. But it's a constant journey. That I found it difficult in the last few months to do that.
Yeah.
Different things happening in personal life, and like I said, with the injury, I'm thinking, all right, I need to be at my best for next season because I'm trying to get to this point in my career. But I constantly have to find myself coming back to, like, I have different technique. I'm into meditation, and come back to mindfulness and things like that. And like I mentioned, I have a sports psychologist, and it's really important to find techniques that work for you, and that's what I try to do, find techniques that work for me that will get me back to being present. And
what got you into meditation?
I mentioned that family friend that told me about the quote and being back to the present, and she introduced me to it, and I just felt a lot of benefit from it, coming back to the breath, and that's, for me, that's the easiest way to feel back in the present, because without breath, there'd be nothing. Like if you hold your breath, all you want to do is have that breath, and without the breath, you wouldn't be living. So, I just think that's really, really important.
And I think, like, with meditation, what I find with it is that it helps you get in control almost of the thinking. So it's like, actually, you can have a million negative thoughts, or people can come at you in all different ways, and it's like, if you can come back to your present and your center, then you're not actually then in that headspace that can almost have an impact on your future.
Exactly.
So if it is negative thinking, or someone said this, and it's that going over that, if you've got the power of present.
Yeah, it's that awareness of, what is going on in your mind. Because when you're just going through life, like, and you don't take that time to really stop and reflect, you don't have that awareness of there's a million things. You might feel a little bit anxious, you might feel on edge that day, and you don't really know why, but coming back to the breath makes you think, okay, I'm grateful for just this breath, and all these different things. You can better analyze, okay, what can I control, what can I can deal with right now, and what things they're just there right now, and it's just not the right time for me, or I always try to think, what's meant for you will be meant for you,
I'm a great believer in that too.
And,
I think that's
everything happens for a reason. That's one thing that my mum, growing up, it was like, I don't know if people have these things that they always harp back on. My mum would always be like, "Look, there's another example. Everything happens for a reason." Big believer in that, she would always say, and it's true. And I carry that with me now as well. So, yeah.
Sounds like you've got some really incredible lessons from your mum, and just through life. In actual fact, like, I see parallels to so many successful people from the things that you're saying. It's obvious that these practices really do sort of help. Because I think even like with meditation, one thing that I've seen is, people kind of shun it a bit, and it's like it's not realizing like the value of, because people get so lost in their thoughts, and it really is that sort of step away from it, isn't it? People, I remember speaking to someone about that kind of like their mindset being almost really negative, I would say, and I was kind of trying to explain to them, like, where are those thoughts coming from though? Is it because it's not the reality of the situation, it's just from you? And it's, I think, the fact that you use it, and a lot of people, successful people, do use it. It's such a valuable thing, isn't it?
And there's no right or wrong. Like,
no.
People, I remember when I was younger, I always just think, okay, meditation is someone sitting in a room with their legs crossed and like in some real uncomfortable position, just saying and it doesn't have to be like that. It's there's no right or wrong, like I said, and you find what works for you and then just run with it.
I used to meditate even on the train. I sit with headphones in, and just people would think I was listening to music, but I was like, I'm in my breath.
Exactly.
I'm in this time.
And it gets easier the more you do it, the more you try it. It's like anything. Like, this is what I was told from someone. It's like practice. It's like working. It's like when I'm in the gym working on my jump shot. It's the same thing. The more you work at it, the easier it'll get to get into that place where you feel present and relaxed and can think clearly. So that's
brilliant. And then in terms of sort of just going back to the advice that you were given, is there any sort of professional advice or any other advice that you feel like, would that be the best thing that you've ever been given advice wise, or is there anything else that you can think of that comes to mind?
I think that one, in terms of advice that has really stuck with me, I'd say that one, be where your feet are. And I think I'll think about that for the rest of my life, honestly. But another quote that has really kind of influenced me a lot, and I'd say this is kind of advice, indirectly, it wasn't directly told to me, but it was you should always try to leave the world a better place than it was when you came in. And I remember listening to that quote when I was like 12 years old, and I kind of thought, okay, how does that apply to me? Like, how can I leave the world a better place? Like, and for me, it's through, you know, my influence through what I do, which is basketball, and use that in other things and other avenues, and kind of influence people in a way that is positive. Because, you know, I'm a basketball player, like, but I'm a lot more than that. And, you know, that's something that's really, really big for me.
It's a wonderful thing, like, to hear words like that and how powerful they can be and how almost beautiful they are, you know, like things that are good really just feel good as well, you know, like obviously there's so many bad things in the world, but words like that, like leaving the world a better place, is so, it really touches like your soul. It's so wonderful, it's so beautiful. Today's episode was supported by the Queen's Hotel, a place I highly recommend to eat, drink and recharge, relax in comfort and design, build business and networks, to celebrate in style. The Queen's, time well spent. So going back to the quote that you just mentioned, it made me think about kind of giving back and what you actually do yourself. And obviously I've read quite a bit about, you know, each year you come back to Leeds and then you do support and help, and I suppose that's part of your own sort of thoughts of seeing your own growth, but also it is there to you get involved and help other people, don't you?
Yeah, no, right? Definitely. It's huge for me. Just the nature of my sport. When I left when I was 18 to go to America, I always knew that it was going to be like 2 or 3 months at least when I could be at home in Leeds. And so during that time, I would go back to visit my old like junior club and where I grew up playing. So over the years, you know, when I was younger, it was a little bit less. I'd like stop into a camp here and there, like the kids had. But now, like, I try to take more of a leading role. You know, in the last few years, you know, setting up different things. At the moment, I'm running a skills clinic for a group of kids.
That's amazing.
And other things as well. And I try to, you know, not just focus on the basketball. I try to like reach out and cover many different areas. You know, in 2020 during COVID, I worked quite closely with Black Lives Matter Leeds. You know, we had a protest in Hyde Park, and we had over like 8,000 people come, and that was just a small team of like 4 of us that organised that. And so, you know, things like that, I try to, because I love Leeds so much, I try to kind of influence things in different ways, and I'm very appreciative of what, you know, Leeds has given me as a kid, and so I try to have the positive, you know, like touch points.
Reach back and give kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a really wonderful thing.
Yeah, and you know, I think it comes back to, like you said, the quote of leaving the world a better place than it was when I came into it.
Yeah.
That really stuck with me, and you know, whatever I do, I try to be more than just a basketball player. You know, the basketball obviously is my love and it's my passion, and it's what I have a lot of goals in, but I'm more than that, and I feel like my value is who I am as a person. You know, I like to speak to a lot of different people. I can get on with a lot of different walks of life, and I feel like I want to use that in a positive way, more than just within the 4 lines of a basketball court. So
like to inspire others to do well with themselves as well.
Yeah, exactly. You know, me and actually 2 of my best friends set up a community interest company a few years ago called the Find Yours Project, and it was all about trying to get young people into finding their passion. whatever it may be, you know, basketball, you know, acting, arts and crafts, whatever, just to give young people a little bit more of a focus. After COVID hit, that took a little bit of a backseat, and I kind of had to focus on myself, and I feel like this is an important thing as well, you know. I could only do those things to give back once I knew that I was in order.
Absolutely.
You have to be kind to yourself, and there was times when during COVID and stuff, I put pressure on myself to continue with those things really, really closely, but I had things in my own life that I had to sort out and get in order first before I could do that. So
and that's understandable, because I think a lot of people feel almost a bit sort of selfish in some ways to do those sort of things for yourself, but in another way, it's like by doing that and having that platform and being able to grow to where you need to be, almost you can help people more. You'll be able to like help people, and people will listen more, and people will listen to the journey, and you may be able to like open more doors by helping yourself and getting yourself to the places that you need to be as well.
Exactly.
But it's really important, like self-care as well is really important.
And self-awareness, I think, as well. You know, people would say to me, oh, like, you know, they might say, oh, you don't give back, or you don't do something, and or you were doing this at some point, why don't you do it anymore? And it's that self-knowledge of, you know, I know that if I get to where I want to be in my career and the heights I want to get to, there's goals in the back of my head that only I really know that I will do one day, and it's only really me that really matters to know that. Other people, it doesn't really matter what they think. They'll see it in the end, you know. And
that's it though, really. It's about being sure in your own mind, isn't it, and knowing what you're going to do, and that's it really, and that's where your meditation and these practices will come in to benefit you, because you're not letting that outside noise in that some people would get really affected by, and actually just go, oh well, I need to do this, and put too much pressure, and then it breaks almost, doesn't it, everything that's going on. So it's that self-awareness is an incredible thing to have. Sounds like that's amazing. So in terms of, I heard you say a few times like being grateful as well seems to be something that's a theme with yourself, and remembering, even just coming back each year is a reminder of where you've come from, and that you're not getting too far ahead of yourself almost. How much is gratitude and being grateful part of your life?
I'd say it's really, really big. I feel like it helps me to stay grounded, and you know, I've been lucky that I've had really great friends that help me stay grounded as well. Don't let me, you know, everyone has their moments where you get a bit too ahead of yourself, and my friends have a way of humbling me, but
they can't often see you though. Like sometimes, like that's a wonderful thing that you did actually get to go stateside almost, because you were able to grow in a different way away from, sometimes it can be not, obviously it's wonderful to have friends and family around, but sometimes they can only see you where you are as well, and to be able to achieve a certain level of success, sometimes you have to sort of step away from that sometimes.
Exactly.
Did that help you maybe?
It did, and I do want to come back to the grateful point. But
definitely.
Yeah, I think that was a kind of balance I had to find after I went away, because I was away for like 8-9 months of the year, and then for 7-8 years straight, and then I'd come back home, and you know, I'd have FaceTime. I've really tried to FaceTime a lot with friends and family, because it helps me first and foremost feel a little bit less lonely, you know, in them days when you're far away from home. But yeah, I think that was something that I had to grapple with, that I would grow during those times when I was away as a person, as a man, and then when I came home, it was like they still sometimes saw me as that same person that I was 9 months ago. But I'm a new person that's not a new person, but I've experienced new things, and I've got new goals, and I've met new people, and you know, my goals are a little bit bigger now because I've seen what's possible things like that, and
grows your scope on like the world a little, doesn't it?
Exactly. I think one thing that was huge for me was when the first school I went to in America, it was a prep school, and it happened to be the #1 private school in America. And so because of that, there was a lot of kids that were from a very different walk of life that I was from. I'm talking like Dubai, like Middle Eastern, like kings and queens, their sons and daughters went there, and like super rich aristocrats, like their sons and daughters went there, and you know, people that are super smart and that are doing great things in the world. And I met them and I was going to class with them, and I'm from Leeds, from a middle, working class background. I'd never had interaction with them kind of people before, and having conversation with them and hearing what their goals were and their aspirations were. And
I bet it's a bit mind-blowing almost.
It was mind-blowing. I was like, okay, I'm here side by side with you. I can do that same thing too, but I can take it back to where I come from and my community at home and do great things there as well. And that was huge for me. So
that's incredible. So just going back to gratitude and grateful, you wanted to say something else about that? Yeah,
so I think that, like I said, I've been lucky to have great mentors along the way, and one thing that one of them said to me was, at a time when I was feeling a little bit, not ungrateful, but I was too focused on what I wanted to achieve and what I wanted to get in life.
And that can be disappointing when you're not quite there.
Exactly, and that can cause anxiety and cause you to feel like bad about yourself or things like that. And they were just like, all right, before bed every night, write down in a notebook like 3 things that you're grateful for, and do that for a period of time. And eventually, the first couple of times it might seem silly. You might write something really, insignificant.
Great pair of socks today.
Exactly. The weather was great today. Something like that.
Yeah.
But then over time, that has a way of like shifting your mindset almost.
Absolutely.
And makes you feel a little bit more present and a little bit more just overall just comfortable with the point that you're at. And then it allows you to think more clear about where you want to be and what you want to achieve, and it just makes you feel healthier.
Gratitude is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
People don't realise how powerful it is, and I do feel like myself, it's one of them things that you kind of go to, and you can't believe how many things there are to be grateful for. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like sometimes when you start looking, you're like, wow, there's like all of this, and there's that, and there's this, and it just makes life feel that bit better.
100%, and it's all about perspective. And like I said, it's been tough the last few months with coming back off injury and getting right back involved with the preparation for the Commonwealth Games, and being grateful is something that I've really had to there's times in life where, like I said, you're on a high. It seems like everything's going your way. Things are going great. It's easy to feel grateful. It's easy. And there's times when the universe just seems like it's putting different obstacles in your way, and you face a bit of adversity, and it's harder then to feel grateful. But for me, for example, like I said, coming back off injury, I joined up with I was selected to go to a training camp for the Commonwealth Games, and I went into that training camp thinking, I literally got cleared to play the week before. So I was a bit out of shape, wasn't feeling my full self. I just went there with an open mind and didn't have much expectation. And I ended up playing really well, got selected into the squad of 6 for the Commonwealth Games.
That's brilliant.
And then from there, they had to select a team of 4 that would actually play, and the other 2 would be reserves. And like I said, perspective, I'm just coming back off injury, so even though my expectations were, okay, I want to make that team, I want to be playing, I want this to happen right now.
Yeah.
Over the last few months in the preparation and the different prep tournaments we had, I had to come back to the fact that, all right, you are just coming back from injury. Even though you want this to happen really bad right now, it might just not be your time. And you have to be grateful for the fact that you're even able to play
even there
right now.
Yeah.
You're even in that
and you're even there in that place,
exactly.
The Commonwealth. I bet there's millions of people who would want that opportunity.
Exactly.
But it's how you look at it.
Perspective, exactly. People off the street might be like, all right, that's amazing, what you're doing, and but to me, there was times over the past few months when I was like, I'm fed up, I'm frustrated. I want to be at this point in terms of my fitness and my ability. I'm not quite there, and it was affecting other walks of life. And you just have to, like I said, go back to them tools, them 3 things that you're grateful for each day, and over time you get back to that place where you're like in a more comfortable space. But that's an example that can be used in any walk of life. Definitely. It happens. Like I said, you have times when it's really easy to feel grateful and times when it's a little bit more tricky. So,
and I think even just with meditation in those moments, I find myself if I'm really aware that things are getting in my way, that's where I really do go, I need to meditate now. This is where, like, if I'm getting anxious or different sort of negative emotions are coming in, I always find, go to that meditation more, go to gratitude more, go to the things that really work, and life seems that little bit better, even though you're facing like adversity or whatever you're going through. Them tools will help you.
It's a toolbox. It's like
it's amazing.
One person's toolbox might be different to another person's toolbox, and it's about taking the time, and that's, you hear it's like a buzzword these days, like self-care and self-love and stuff, but that's really what it is. It's finding what works for you, taking that time, even if it's out of your day, like, all right, I'm going to try this. It might not work, but it might work, and if it does work, all right, that's in my toolbox now. So when I'm feeling this type of way, I know that, okay, I need to leave the room, take a quick 5 minutes, and then I'm back in that space in a good frame of mind, and I feel that's really, really important.
Honestly, and all of these lessons are so great for everybody listening, and I'm even, just these little reminders. Even everyone in the rooms are like, yeah. It's great things that, we all need, and I hope it really helps. So I'm going to finish off with some big questions, some big life questions. It's the 3 questions, and you can answer however you want. You might have a word, or you might say,
so
I'm not answering that,
or
a sentence, or whatever you want. It's just like 3 big questions on life, and we've talked about some of them anyway, but it's just kind of like listening to the things that you've said. I think you may have some good answers. So in a nutshell, or in a sentence, what do you think the key to success is? And it can be everything, but it could be just what came to mind, like what came straight to mind.
Belief.
Excellent.
That was the first thing that came to mind.
I think these are the things, maybe just what comes to my straight. Okay, so what do you think the secret to happiness is?
The secret to happiness, I think it is gratitude.
Okay.
I'd say. Obviously, we just spoke about it.
Yeah.
But when I feel most grateful for the things around me, it doesn't matter how much money I've got in my bank account. It doesn't matter what opportunities are on the horizon. It's just like I'm good right now. I'm living. I'm breathing. Other things are a bonus, and it doesn't mean you don't want them things to happen. But
that's the thing. Like, some of the people who seem to have achieved the most can still be so unhappy.
You hear about that. I remember. I always think about. I don't know if you've seen it. A little clip of Bob Marley when a journalist was asking. He was like, must have been outside his house or something. Yeah. And he asked him, are you rich? Like, are you rich? And Bob Marley turns and is like, rich? Like, what is riches? Like, my riches is different to your riches. And I was like, wow, like, that's so, like, his whole mindset, the way he sees richness and like happiness is completely different to what this journalist that was trying to get a quick soundbite was to him. And he was just in a completely different space, and I really like that. So
it's beautiful, that. Okay, last one. Are you ready? This is a big one.
I'm ready.
So what do you think the meaning of life is?
Oof.
Just drop that out. What came straight in? Bob Marley, definitely. That's the answer.
The meaning of life. I think it is to become the best version of yourself, and then help others do the same.
Excellent. That's wrong. No, I'm joking. That's amazing. Thank you. And we're just going to ask you at the very end to just take a quote out. Quotes, I think quotes can change your life, and obviously you've had a couple of quotes in your life that have helped you. I'm not sure what you've picked. What's yours? As we said, blank. Possibly. What does yours say?
It's choose to help others, choose to care, choose or be honest, choose to be kind, choose love, and we can all make this world a better place.
Wow, that's awesome. That's some of
on
the words
money
that
of what we were speaking about today.
Exactly. The universe has
The
spoken.
universe.
That's amazing. Oh, well, thank you so much for today. It's
You're
been
welcome.
really
Thank you so
wonderful
much for
having a
having
chat
me.
with you, and all these words of wisdom, I'm sure, will help lots of other people.
No, thank you for having me. You guys are doing amazing work, and
thanks.
yeah, hopefully we can touch base again in the future.
Definitely. Let's do that. Okay. Right. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
That was so good, honestly. Thank you. I can't believe that.
That's crazy.